The Carson Pirie Scott and Company building was built late into the 19th century in 1899 under the architect and designer Louis Sullivan. Located down First South Street in Chicago, Illinois, the Carson Pirie Scott building was built initially under the department store firm of Schlesinger and Meyer before being sold to retail firm Carson in 1904. It maintained its retail function from 1899 until recently in 2007. On May of 1898, Schlesinger and Meyer announced the proposal of a new building complex that would replace our already existing decrepit buildings at the intersection of State and Madison. Longtime associate in architectural commissioning, Louis Sullivan was naturally called on by Schlesinger to design and construct their new building. Though the project was sure to be implemented, Schlesinger and Meyer found it difficult to make up their minds and were still uncomfortable with the designs. Having originally found contemplating over a 10 to 12-story building, they decided to further scale it down to a 9-story brick building that would essentially wrap around the cornering edges of the intersection. More plans and designs were produced, and by then, the public had been completely confused as to what the outcome was to be. In a few years, Schlesinger and Meyer returned in 1902 and compromised with Sullivan on a 12-story concept originally planned in 1898. Sullivan, in charge of construction design, planned for a 3-step process. First of all, the foundation would be laid and basements built. Second, the corner tower and 3 bays on either side that connected with Madison Street. And finally, the 4 southernmost bays on State Street. Essentially, it was to be a year-long project that would be constructed purely out of steel framework. As was becoming extremely popular at the turn of the century, steel construction had begun to sweep the nation, revolutionizing architecture and architectural organization. As new materials were being technologically advanced, the commercial sector erupted onto the world stage as industries geared toward a new commercialism. One of the major complications and criteria of construction was rapid assembly and minimal disruption of store operation hours. The demand for rapidity resulted in the substitution of cast iron columns that would replace the originally planned steel shafts. Sullivan had all the metal elements set with terracotta, which were used as between-floor fire extinguishers as well as support elements. Soon after, cast iron ornamentation was set in. The completion of fireproof flooring, plastered ceilings, and set-in windows were all set in. The formal grand opening occurred right on schedule on October of 1903, as the last construction was completed. Keeping in consideration the concept of showcase window advertisement, Sullivan carried the concept of penetrating windows throughout the whole of the structure, conceived as Bay Area window showrooms. The total depth of the windows varied from 6 to 8 feet, creating sufficient areas for displays as small showrooms along the street. The vast quality of the glass windows that span the entire building give a feeling of splendor and a sense of freedom from the boring, dull, urban landscape. These shafts of windows also reflect Sullivan's influences by the Chicago school of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, known for employing a commercial style in design. What mainly distinguishes this design was the use of steel framework and masonry techniques coupled with limited use of ornamentation on the exterior. The base portion solely functions on its purpose of support, as there is given a sense of heaviness and weight represented through the evidence of cast ironwork that firmly roots its building. As we move higher, the shaft of windows leading to the roof show the vertically and the rhythmic progression across the complex. The constant repetition leads the eye up and through the building, creating a visual path of movement all over the facade. Finally, we reach the roof edge, representing the capital to the column. The use of free-flowing forms of nature as decorative elements gives a sense of lightness and balance to the whole. Though out of commission, the Carson Pirie Scott building still stands today in downtown Chicago as a living testament of the technological advances that produce a new perspective to view architecture.